Hello, everyone. Welcome to Your Story. So, today I have with me Dr. Lavneesh Channa, who is Vice President Government Affairs for SAP for Asia Pacific and Japan. And we'll talk to him about how digital transformation is happening in last 365 days and what's the future of digital transformation. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you. Thank you,
So,
Mani.
so how do you think the roadmap for digital transformation has changed in last 365 days? And what's the future? While say, what is the future of governance as per you?
Okay, so Manish, if you see, we have always been evolving around synergizing the technology developments and the potential applications for an inclusive growth. It's not that the last 1 year has been remarkable in the and people call it the pandemic age because it has laid what I call it as a digital foundation for socio-economic continuity and revival. The most important part is that the what's in it for me, which was missing for business, consumers, and citizen at large, has now been established. Now, so that has become the foundation of the upsurge or in adoption of digital as a primary means of business, public service delivery, or citizen to citizen interaction. Now, talking about the changes that you mentioned, first, we have seen some new business models in traditional service sectors like healthcare, IT, education. We see something, some new business models emerging out, and some of it are purely online. Some of it are, a hybrid delivery, mechanism. But that's how it's happening. Now, secondly, for technology and information technology industry in particular, remote working has emerged not only as a necessity, but in some sense of the word, also as a cost competitiveness, criteria. And if you see from the government perspective, right, there have been some rapidly developed, path-changing, developments, game-changing developments in areas like public health management. We have seen very, very strong interministerial and center state collaborative models emerging, and hence the role for industry. Now, that's fine. The more important to me is not what has changed. More important to me is what is likely to change, and how do we prepare, how do we take advantage of that in terms of proactive engagement. Now, what is likely to change? And I would like to respond in few buckets. So first, in my view, going forward, the focus on digital SMEs, Manish, is going to increase further, if not manifold. With 63 million SMEs in the country, this is going to be the next tech contribution area as we move forward. And the revival, the need for revival would put this agenda most likely on the forefront. That is one. Second, the pandemic has really, really pushed the innovation agenda on the forefront. So you see a number of innovations, whether as a result of crisis, or as a result of need, or as a result of advantageous position in terms of application, ease of application, etc. We have seen a number of innovative models, and now is the time when you see the real collaboration between government, industry, and academia is likely to take shape. That's second. Third, from a government perspective, we are actually now seeing the foundation getting laid for achievements of digital platforms for the whole of government agenda. That is all government arms coming together, and either procedurally or through a technology-led virtual platform. That foundation we see is getting laid. And I always say that we are now laying the foundation to move from a digital India to a digitally intelligent India. The data collection that we have done, the experiments that we have done, is now we are now laying the foundation for the application of emerging technologies, whether it's AI, IoT, blockchain, and whatnot. And fifth, which will be something very, very interesting as we move forward, as we get into the revival, as we get into the creation of more and more physical infrastructure, whether it's health, highways, transport, connectivity, or whatnot, as a propelling engine for revival and growth. Very soon, we will also see the role for digital in terms of managing this growth sustainably. The climate and the green part would also assume importance, because we will have a push in the activities. So these are some of the areas that I see going forward. If I summarize: SMEs, the innovation agenda, sustainability agenda, the emergence of whole of government, and the foundation for the emerging technologies are the areas that we would now see and we can aim and capitalize on.
So you talk about the SMEs and all. So I want to know about do you think important for India's, so how important is startups, one, and these SMEs in bringing the digital transformation on some more sectors like healthcare is needing right now, education. So we are talking about digital education. So how will these help, and what are the challenges and opportunities for them?
Okay, see, when so there are two pillars to your question. One is the whole entrepreneurship, or the startup community. Second is the SME, the budding large companies, if I can use the word. See, on this front, the SME front, traditionally, what have been the faced in when it comes to digital enablement of these. So there are two broad areas of challenges. One is the awareness about technology solutions. The SMEs, in terms of absorption awareness, that is something, that is one. Second, the pillar is the access to low cost technology solutions, right? So SMEs affordability in terms of the technology cost and all. Now both these are, so one, the awareness has now been largely facilitated from the need it is generating, either because of regulatory compliance, or because my competition is doing, or because the consumer is asking for, because every order is now coming to me virtually, so I have to be on that. I have to India market. If it is not giving me the kind of return on my investment, I need to go to global market. So how do I do technologically? That is something that is already happening. The biggest shift is the availability of low cost options now to SMEs. Look at us as SAP. So we launched this entire enterprise software for SMEs as a part of our global, which is really, really, really affordable. Now, on the entrepreneurship and the startup community per se, we have already seen a number of ideas, number of solutions, number of areas where we are actually currently experiencing the impact that the entrepreneurial spirit can make. So the time gap between an idea generation to the application and impact is now shrinking because of the readily available market canvas for application of that idea. Obviously, we are picking up, and if the valuation of all the Indian unicorns is an idea, we are picking up in terms of the area. Going forward will be more important. How do I sustain this digital momentum post the pandemic world? So typically, what happens is, once there is a need, I kind of work together, and once the need goes away, then there's a tendency to be complacent and kind of give it away. That, to me, in terms of creation of a programmatic sustaining structure, that will shape how much are we able to reap the advantage of this culture of innovation from India.
So where do you see India within APAC and Japan for SAP?
Okay, so if the question is only for SAP, so India always, like for all other companies, India has always been an important geography for us. We have the second largest center here in Manish, and we serve roughly around 12,000 customers, which are government and we're really privileged that we are strengthening the IT backbone of the Indian industry for global competitiveness. We have 13,000 employees. Now, talking to answer your questions about the importance of India in the Asia Pacific and Japan region, as we call it, APJ, Japan region, it's on two dimensions. One, the differentiation of for India is on two accounts. One, the business and regulatory environment per se. Second, our products and market priorities. Now, these are two different, Now, if you see the first one, that's the business and regulatory environment per se, the best part about India as a market, India as a geography, for any company for that matter, is the sheer size, diversity, and complexity of Indian initiative. You name a sector, the sheer size, diversity, and complexity has the potential of becoming a reference elsewhere, and sometimes benchmark. 1.3 billion Aadhaars is a benchmark, right? So who does it? The DigiLocker as a single vault for citizen vault across the country. These are all initiatives. The sheer size and complexity. And secondly, India has been really proactive in realizing the importance of the whole policy landscape, whether it is data protection, cloud, digital taxation, or creation of local capacity for electronic manufacturing and whatnot. And that's on one side. So there was a real collaborative action on that. The other things, if you see the outlook in sectors like logistics, sectors like the health infrastructure, Industry 4.0, emerging technologies, is truly optimistic going forward. And that is what it offers, both for a platform for growth for larger companies and entrepreneurship for new ideas. And as I mentioned, the fastest growing mobile connectivity, one of the fastest growing mobile connectivity, and also the broadband infrastructure. The other good thing that is happening as in India as a reference case, and you're aware that the BharatNet is already touching something like 1.6 million, 1.6 lakh gram panchayats, already touching. The opportunities for public services transformation is now becoming huge, and that is what really differentiates India. The most important part is not whether India will grow or India will continue to have attraction. The most important part is when it becomes a real reference and benchmark, and how it becomes. That is something that we have. If you look at our contribution as SAP, we have really gone ahead with ambitious project in both serving the companies as well as creation of ecosystems. We have programs like Code Unnati, which is meant to make citizens digitally literate. We have programs like Global Bharat, which are actually targeted at the Indian SMEs to have access to global markets, prepare a talent pool, and get access to low-cost software. So there is a holistic contribution that we are making. In short, what I'm trying to say is the sheer pace of change in India is the differentiator when it comes to India as a geography within the Asia Pacific.
So you have been a leader in the digital transformation for the last so many years. You have been speaking at various forums, various international conferences also. So where do you think the Indian government can work on strengthening the digital infra in the coming years?
Okay, so I frankly, if you let me link it to the Digital India program. I would say digital infra is not only the physical infra. Digital infra is also a service delivery infra. So that's so if you see, as I mentioned, Digital India program is truly a holistic program, and we have seen some remarkable achievements. I mentioned about MyGov, DigiLocker, etc. Now, electronic manufacturing activity, you have seen India's ranking, in terms of on all the different indices, whether it's the global innovation, ease of doing business, etc., etc. We have put the largest network of common services centers, and that is truly remarkable. Now, when I say the next wave, the next step is one, as I mentioned, given now the creation of this foundation, the one government or whole of government agenda for the citizen in terms of a seamless interface for all government service delivery is now on the cards. Some states like Andhra, they have experimented this with the back end government to government and government to employee services through comprehensive financial management systems. And if you see, there has already been talks around conceptualization of digital platforms. So that's one. Second, as I mentioned, the emerging technologies, the infrastructure is facilitating the adoption there. We have now done COVID simulation in terms of algorithm development for how will it expand, how will it spread. That some use cases here and there are actually getting evolved, right? And third, going forward, to me, is now is the time, Manish, when IT should become a horizontal policy prescription in all other policy prescription. And to some extent, that's already happening. If you read the logistics policy, majority of it supports digital connectivity. We have gone. These are three broad dimensions of change that will come through, and the time it will be really exciting time to ensure that the connectivity that we are actually going and establishing, is taken. As I'll give you another example, the Industry 4.0 agenda for SMEs, right? That's something that will be based on the infra creation in terms of connectivity, because typical SMEs in India, if you see, are most of, if not everyone, but majority of them, or a common arrangement is a cluster based. So on one cluster you have auto components on one cluster. Now, if I have connectivity across the cluster, the interoperability and the exchange of and the common pooling of resources can actually be facilitated. So we are only waiting for the time to actually emerge wherein we can take this next to the next way forward.
So what tips, or I'll say suggestions, you will give to the state governments? So every state is now prioritizing digitization of services just to ease services. Because of this COVID, they also have a challenging situation right now in the states. What suggestion would you give to the state governments towards digital transformation?
Frankly, from a public service delivery process, other than the overall, the difference between project monitoring and project management, which are centrally funded, states have the same kind of agenda in terms of ensuring seamless government delivery by through integration of departments and all. Capacity building is now giving way to culture building. So that's the next wave for states in terms of creation of not only a training infrastructure for government employees, but also culture of digitization, wherein people actually do hands-on use it. And we have seen, whenever people have laid their hands on, the results have been remarkable. The results have been truly remarkable, and the creativity that comes out of the complexity of government system is huge. The more important part is, to me, is the replication from one state to another. In many cases, the processes are more or less similar, with particularly around government to government or government to employee system. The more important is institutionalization of taking the experience of one state and replicating in the other, so that the state which is not digitally mature right now is doesn't have to reinvent the wheel. The facilitation of this passing on of experience and knowledge is something that's a must going forward, because that will ensure rapid deployment, that will ensure speed of adoption, that will ensure productization of these solutions, and that will become replicable very fast. To some extent, take the example of many of the services being done by agencies like National Informatics Center. That's already getting onto this from a commercial perspective, that's we are all gearing up in terms of replication of one state initiatives to other.
So my last question, how has been the last 365 days for you?
Okay, so for me personally, or
Personally.
personally, also there have been it has been a very interesting journey. Last other than the COVID experience that I had with my family, that I think is no longer, when I got COVID, that was in July last year. So it was a unique kind of a identifier for you that so and so is. But today, you hear almost every second degree of good part of, and let me share the good part, and let me share the not so good part in terms of, so good part is you can balance work and life. So there is a work life balancing. The travel is gone, right? So you don't have to travel from one part of the city and all, and digital has become the primary means of that. So that's good. So you, as I'm talking to you, after this I can go out, get up and buy my vegetables for the next 1 week, and there is no problem on that. So I have the flexibility. Plus I would also say, personally, the productivity has gone up in terms of because of this flexibility of this thing. On the not so good part, for whatever we may say, Manish, we are all social, right? I miss the drive on the roads like anything. So the other day I had to go for a meeting, and I was in a traffic jam. After a year or so, I had gone out, and I was really liking the traffic jam. That, my God, this is very good experience that you have. We still want to meet people, and culturally, have we become 100% used to a virtual interaction? My own assessment is no. It's a hybrid assessment that we have been able to do. And at home, obviously, my wife is a doctor, so she goes for her job every day. So there is no work from home for her. In fact, there is more work for her in terms of in these days. So to some extent, there has been some role reversal. So now I have to ask her, what will you eat when you come back? So there has been some element of role reversal. I'm not saying that earlier it was not the case, but that's how And then you realize that the sense of mutual respect in family members actually is going up. That, oh, everybody is so important. While you were in office, away from office, you didn't know what is happening at home. Now everybody realizes that this is happening at home. But overall, a very interesting experience of this. I believe going forward, it will be a hybrid kind of a model that we will be using. So this experience that we are now accumulating would help in conceptualizing new innovative ways of team interaction, of people interaction, that we'll take it forward.
Thank you so much for speaking to your story, sir.
Thank you.